like for you, and how difficult has it made it as a head coach of a basketball team?
Well, I think I'm like everybody else. We've all had to get used to it. Form is obviously, I hope everybody is doing the right thing and kind of staying away from folks and staying in the house. My biggest challenge for me, I'll talk about our current kids, is on Monday we started online classes, and I've had a couple Zoom meetings with those guys, making sure that they understand how important it is now, obviously, to get back into the academic mode of it, making sure guys will take care of their business. It's a tough thing because every team, and we included, you always have some guys that need a little bit more help academically with tutors, and so now I'm having to rely on our guys to be able to log in every day to be able to talk to the tutors and make sure that we're on track. And one of the biggest things that our challenges is kids today don't check emails, and a lot of the teachers are now communicating through emails, and we've had to adjust to that. In regards to recruits, the guys that we signed, we're trying to stay in contact with those guys as much as possible, kind of keeping those guys updated about what's going on. And then, without saying any names, as far as future recruits, we're doing a good job of, texting and getting on the phone with those guys and doing as much FaceTime as we can, just to, make sure that everybody understands that this is a tough situation, but we'll all get through it.
Kevin, in your conversations with your players, your current players, have you had discussions about next year, and are they all coming back? Are you all confident that everybody's going to be intact when you get back?
Yeah, Brett, you kind of broke up on me. I think I understand your question. All of our stuff is about, obviously staying focused to make sure they finish out strong. I don't have any indication that anybody is not returning. After the season, after the season ended, I had a conversation with pretty much every guy on our team, including the seniors and the fifth year guys. Two guys, DJ Funderburk and also Devon Daniels, will both go through the process with the NBA to figure out, what their status is, and obviously learn a lot more about obviously what the NBA folks think about them, and they'll take the feedback, and obviously will make a informed decision about what their future is here. But both of those guys will go through that process. That being said, I don't even know how the process will look. CJ Bryce and Markel Johnson were both invited to the PIT, but of course that's been canceled, and I don't even know if those guys will be able to have some workouts. So we'll wait for that feedback to determine obviously what happens with those two guys.
Coach, how much has the recruiting process been altered by all this? Obviously, in-person visits are out of the question. How much has that kind of hindered connecting with the recruits?
Well, it's hindered, but it's something that everybody in the country has to do, and so I think we have to be creative. We've talked to several kids about the opportunity that once the recruiting ban is lifted, and once we get back to our country trying to get back to normal a little bit, possibly those type of things. But I understand. Look, I'm not complaining. It's we're in a situation where we're fighting a dangerous virus, and right now I tell our guys, and even the guys that I'm recruiting, it's not about us. It's not about recruiting. It's not about athletics. It's about the safety of the well-being of our country and the world. And so we have to. Everybody's got to take a step back and put athletics in the back burner, and obviously try to get through this.
Coach, how often are you talking to like your athletic director, and how often are they hearing from like the NCAA about what's next and what the future may look like?
Yeah, Chancellor Woodson and our athletic director, Boo Corrigan, has done a tremendous job of updating everyone, our entire athletic department, our entire school, pretty much on a daily basis. I'm getting very used to Zoom, so that means I've had a lot of conversation with those guys. But we get information and we get updated. Probably, I would say early on it was 3 or 4 hours, and now it's slowed down a little bit where we get at least one or two daily about what's going on, and as they find out, they tend to share with us.
Kevin, can you contrast what it's like right now for you, say, to last year at this time, what you would be doing in terms of recruiting and preparation for getting out, on the road?
Well, this time, this time this year, I was hoping that we would probably be ending up in this somewhere. It's tough. This is tournament time. We obviously will be preparing. If you look back at last year, we were still playing in the NIT at this time. I don't know how our recruiting calendar is going to look. I will say, if I'm guessing, I would say there will be no April. I don't know how it would go from that point on. I don't know if we'll have a July. If we're able to have a July, maybe they'll add a couple weekends or a few days into July. But there's so much uncertainty about what's going to happen because we're fighting a moving target right now.
Kevin, could you go through the timeline of beating Pittsburgh, finding out that we're going to be no fans in the stands, and then finding out there's going to be no more games? And how difficult was it to tell your players, especially Markel and CJ and Pat and Danny?
Yeah, we came off a great win. I thought we finished the season with a great home win against Wake Forest, and it was great for our seniors. And then obviously we went on to the tournament and had a first round bye and played Pittsburgh and played very well and ended that game. And our attention automatically turned to the opportunity to play against a very good team in Duke again. I started hearing rumblings that morning of the Duke game that there possibly wasn't going to be a game. And as we got closer to that, I think around noonish, it was confirmed that the ACC was going to cancel the tournament. So we were already set up to have a meeting. So I didn't change the meeting because we were going to meet before we came over. And obviously our kids. It's hard, right? For guys like Markel and CJ Rice, and at that time we only thought it was going to be just the ACC tournament. And so at that time we talked about obviously here's what we're going to do. Either we can stay or we can get on the bus and we can drive back. And we decided in a couple hours we were going to drive back. And we talked about obviously how disappointing it was. They were looking forward to obviously playing another game, trying to compete for an ACC tournament championship. We got back to Raleigh, I want to say about 3:00, and then we let them all disperse. I had a couple. Canceled, and I certainly had to huddle those guys up, and and that's a thing because you're right. You look at opportunity for a kid to go to 3 tournaments out of 4 years, and it didn't happen. Markel Johnson, this would have been his second one, and it didn't happen for him. And then you look at Pat Andrews and look at Danny Dixon. Both of those guys came to a Power 5 so they could have the opportunity to play in the biggest tournament in the country, and it didn't happen. When the tournament was canceled, I was disappointed. I really was. I thought it should have been postponed. But as information started coming out, I realized it was the right thing to do. I really did. And that's when it hit me that this is way bigger than just basketball, way bigger than what's going on. It's very unfortunate. I feel bad for the spring sports seniors. Even though there's a possibility that they may get their year back, it's still disappointing because obviously, they've been building and working hard for this moment. I was in the CAA and, we were fortunate to go to 2 of those tournaments and, we beat Hofstra 1 or 2 times to get there. And a team like Hofstra and Joe Mihalik has done a good job. He gets his chance to go and he don't get to go. So it was so tough. It was the right decision. But at that time, it didn't feel like it.
Coach, just to clarify real quick, did DJ and Devon already come to you and say they were going to try the process? About when did they do that?
Yeah, we had meetings before each guy was able to get out and leave and go home. And came out of their meetings, they both and trouble with me encouraging. I think it's when you got guys who are juniors and both of those guys are a little older, I think it's important that they get as much feedback as they can. So during those two guys meeting, we talked about obviously filling out the paperwork to get the feedback, and that's the first step. Neither one of those guys exactly know what they're going to do, but we wanted to fill out the information to get the feedback from the committee.
Is there any update at this point on AJ Taylor? Because I know he missed the entire season, and his status for the coming season.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, Corey, that AJ is 100%, but he's in a much better place with his knee. He should be ready to go. Obviously, by the time we roll into the season, the tough thing about it is guys like AJ will continue to get therapy, and Thomas Allen also. And it's tough because we can't do that because they're not allowed on campus. So it's tough to do that part of it. But all of those guys are trending in the right direction.
Kevin,
Sorry, you went in and out when you answered this, but what was the seniors' reaction and what was your message to them? I know you kind of answered this, but it was in and out for a minute.
Yeah, they were disappointed, as was I. For those guys, it's hard, as a coach, when you recruit guys and you got a great opportunity and it's all of a sudden taken away from you. It was disappointing, and I told them it's okay to be disappointed. You're not the only guys, and I really felt bad for them. I thought the market has and further his happened. So I guess the biggest word is disappointment. We all felt it for him because as you're a senior, you realize this is your last opportunity to be around your teammates in the locker room. Most guys end the season on a loss. We're one of the teams that did.
Kevin, do you have a lot of your windows open or something? It's saying that your bandwidth is low, and every now and again we kind of lose what you're saying.
Well, so you got to talk to my wife about the Wi-Fi. Then I'll blame that on her, and I'll tell her that you called her out in front of all of these people. They're going in and out. It has nothing to do with me now. I have no idea. It worked before, but obviously now when it's a bunch of people, it won't work.
Coach, what have your days looked like during this process? What are you kind of doing to pass the time every day, man?
Man, I've done everything. I've lost a lot of 2K games to my son where he won't even play me anymore. That's the toughest thing. I've spent this time trying to hang out with my family as much. As crazy as it sounds, as coaches, we don't get a chance to really spend a lot of time with family. And not that they want to hang out with me, but I'm spending a lot of time hanging with TikTok dancing the other day, but we're not ready to release it because I don't think I look good, so they want to make sure I'm looking good. Tonight, I'm going to, my wife was telling me that I got to cook my famous lasagna, and so I'm cooking tonight. And yes, for everybody that wants to know, I can cook a nice lasagna. But I've reached out to my parents, I've reached out to loved ones. We typically do a Zoom meeting or two every day with our administration, and I'm talking to my assistant coaches, doing those type of things, making sure that my family is doing well, talking to recruits, and so it's been even though you're at home, it seems like you're working every hour, and that's pretty good, and that keeps me busy.
Coach, have you been in contact with any potential grad transfers or just regular transfers this time of year? Or what's the timeline when you're able to talk to those guys, and if you've heard from any guys about that?
So, can you repeat that for me?
Have you been in contact or heard from any potential grad transfers or adding anybody to the roster or transfers this time of year?
Yeah, I would tell you this. We're talking to graduates. We're talking to different people. And the reason being, I know everybody loves to do the numbers game, and they'll add up and say, well, you got 13 guys. You only got 13. Obviously in today's world, I can go to the portal tonight and we could have 5 guys in the portal. Not that that's going to happen, So I think you have to continue to recruit. You have to obviously what if positive somebody sees a late first round guy or something happens with Devon. So you have to continue to recruit and just in case some of those situations happen.
Kevin, when we spoke to Mac Brown Monday, he talked about their primary concern right now, checking on the mental health of the players in his program. Is that something I'm sure you're actively doing too? And how do the players seem to be handling this?
Yeah, it's tough because their season ended abruptly, but also it's really nowhere to go play basketball, and so that's the toughest thing. All of us we have family and we can hang out with family, but our players, they're young, and so they're playing a lot of PlayStation, they're playing a lot of Xbox. We're trying to ease them into starting, this past Monday, making sure they get back into the academic part of it. But I've had several conversations with them. A lot of times our guys do better by text, and it may be as simple as those type. Everybody's in great communication with us, and that's what's expected. I want to make sure all our guys are doing well during this situation, and not just them. I want to make sure that their families doing well. And I'm encouraging those guys because a lot of times young guys don't understand what stay inside. And I'm encouraging everybody, all of our players, to try to stay away because even though they may not be at high risk, if they catch it, they can affect some, their mothers, their dad, their grandmothers, and those type of things. And I'll even extend it to the next. When you're looking at this weekend, I know it's going to be extremely hot outside, and that means more people want to get outside. And I would ask people just to, stay inside or exercise social distance.
Speaking of exercise, Kevin, I was just curious in terms of conditioning for your players right now. Like, you mentioned there aren't places to play. What about just merely, do they have an old school regimen of push-ups and stuff, to keep them in shape, or how are you approaching that?
Unfortunately, CEO, this is their time, and we're not allowed to monitor their time or make them do anything. And so I would hope that some of our guys are staying in great shape, and that's all I can do. We don't mandate it. We can't mandate it, nor will we.
Okay, so now you got to tell us, Kevin, what is the secret to a great lasagna?
Go to
I can't tell you that. I cannot tell you that. But so we gotta, obviously I don't do a great job cooking, and I'll be the first to admit. And my wife, when it comes to cooking, she's a rock star. She does a tremendous job. But it burns her up a little bit that my oldest son, who's 16, likes my lasagna better than hers. And I'm not sure he really does like it. But he knows I pay his cell phone bill, and so he's smart enough to say that. But I can't give. I do have a secret ingredient, and I don't know if I'll do this. I may post it tonight. I'm trying to weasel out making it. I don't know if you guys have ever made lasagna from scratch, but I'm telling you, it's a long process and it's tough.
Anything else for Coach Keatts?
Guys, before we go, I always like to leave you guys with something, man. Make sure you guys are being safe. It's tough. I know in your jobs, it puts you always in, at risk. But remember, at the end of the day, man, you got to take care of yourself and your family. So I want you guys to exercise the right stuff and do the right thing. We'll beat the virus, but we all got to do it together.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank
you, Kevin.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Okay. Stop the